Another week of NFL previews are here. The NFL Divisional round of the playoffs is here. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Kevin Cannon for the weekly NFL show here on Beef Up Front. Only 4 games to break down this week. 2 games in the NFC, 2 games in the AFC. First to the NFC and AFC championships on the line. Football games are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and it's sad, but the stakes have been raised. We got some awesome games coming up this weekend. I think one of the matchups potentially of the past decade or so in Buffalo this upcoming Sunday, at least of terms of magnitude and what it means to both of these quarterbacks, maybe potentially getting over the playoff hump. But a big weekend ahead, birth to the championship games on the line. Welcome back, Kevin. How are we?
Great. Yeah, it should be a super fun weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Like you said, really, really looking forward to that game Sunday night. And obviously, Eagles playing in the first game Sunday afternoon should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be another doozy of a weekend in terms of football. It was a really exciting weekend last weekend. I think we had the games weren't all-timers, but it was just nice to have wall-to-wall football, and you just got to enjoy it. Games from here on out, you only got 3 games after this. You got the conference championships next weekend and the Super Bowl. You got the national championship game on Monday night as well. So it's hard to believe. We always talk about it, but once the season's here, it comes and goes in a blink of an eye, and we got to enjoy these last few games, and hopefully they all deliver, and hopefully we see the Eagles next weekend as well in the NFC title game. Whether it's hosting the Commanders or heading out to Detroit. But for now, we will get into the previews of the games for this weekend. We start on Saturday, of course, starting on Saturday with the 4-seeded Texans. They defeat the Chargers last week in a pretty impressive defensive showing. Justin Herbert has a ton of turnovers in that one. Some his fault, some goes right through the receiver's hands, but that was a bad showing by the Chargers. They forced some turnovers as well and weren't able to capitalize off of it. But Texans came out of that one looking confident. Maybe they're able to have some of that same luck this week against the Chiefs. They'll travel to Kansas City to play the number 1 seeded Chiefs off the bye. 4:30 kick on ESPN. Chiefs 7.5-point favorite here. Over under is 41.5.
Yeah, this whole season we've heard about how the Chiefs aren't as good as their record is and they won't be able to three-peat. And here's the first test for them. I think it's going to be a close game as the Chiefs offense will struggle at points, but I'm just going to trust in Mahomes to figure everything out. He always seems to do it in the playoffs. And the Chiefs also have a very solid defense led by Chris Jones. CJ Stroud was the second most sacked QB in the NFL this year, and the interior of their offensive line for the Texans is their main area of weakness. So I think he could have a huge impact on the game. He can single-handedly disrupt the game. And then the Chiefs are also getting healthier after sitting a bunch of starters in Week 18 and then having the bye. Andy Reid off a bye in Kansas City with Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to bet against that, so I'm going Chiefs 27, Texans 21. So the Texans do cover the 7.5 and the over of 41.5 hidden.
Yeah, this is like a spot where it's even if you think the Texans have a chance or you're like, oh, they'll keep it close within the number, don't bet on it. Like Mahomes last year in the playoffs, I think that run alone last year was enough to kind of show you. And I know he was an underdog in all those spots, except the Dolphins game, but it's like, just don't bet against him in the playoffs. It's not a money-making strategy. You didn't find some loophole like, oh, I can make a bunch of money on an underdog here. Like, no, it's not going to happen. Don't do it. Until it happens more than once in a row. I'd say just wane off of that and sit back and kind of just watch the magic happen, because that's what it seems like it's going to do. The Texans could very well cover this game and keep it close, but also I'm not going to put money against the Chiefs going out there off all this rest and beating up on the Texans. The Chiefs right now, I think you can argue, are the most dangerous they've been on offense all year. When you look at Pacheco's back, Kareem Hunt is still a tough runner. Travis Kelce, we saw what he did in the playoffs last year. He really turned it on. They really started to use him more. It seemed like they kind of just saved him for the stretch run there. Hollywood Brown is in the lineup for the first time all year now. Hopkins has finally kind of settled in. Xavier Worthy over the past few weeks. The list goes on and on. The Chiefs are, I think, right now on the offensive side as dangerous as they've been all year. you give Andy Reid, as you said, coming off the bye here, extra time to script. I think the Chiefs are going to come out guns a-blazing. Very surprised to see this as a 41.5-point total. Really like the over in this spot. I'm not going to say the Chiefs can get it themselves, but I am looking for the Chiefs to put up like 27 to 30 points, somewhere in that range. I think the Texans are going to be able to score just enough to make that interesting. The only way I see the Chiefs losing this game, though, at home is a full self-implosion. They lose it themselves, kind of like the Chargers did last week. I think at the end of the day, we'll see the Chiefs moving on yet again to another AFC title game. I'll go Chiefs 30, Texans 20. Chiefs minus 7.5, over 41.5 there. All right, Saturday night now we head out to Detroit to play as the number 1 seed Lions host the number 6 seed Commanders. Lions coming off a bye as well. Commanders coming off a last-second field goal win over the Tampa Bay Bucks. 8 o'clock kick on Fox. Lions, a big 8.5-point favorite here as well. Over-under is 55.5, Kev. Any chance the Commanders can go to Ford Field and pull off the upset?
I don't think so. I think they do cover, though. Lions score 30, Commanders 24, so Commanders plus 8.5, under 55.5. The Lions defense has been pretty solid all year, especially considering how many injuries they've had. They rank 7th in points per game, 1st in third down conversion rate, and 7th in red zone scoring. Those numbers are fantastic numbers, and the best part is I don't think it really matters. I think the Lions defense could have their worst game of the year on Sunday, and I'd still pick them. That's because the offense can score, and they can score a ton. David Montgomery will also be back this week for the Lions running back room. And then the Lions offense ranks top 5 in just about every offensive category this entire season. I think the run game's going to be firing on all cylinders. And then Goff has shown all year long this year, and even in previous years, even back to his time in LA, he can make all the necessary throws when needed. And then I think Jaden Daniels for the Commanders can have a fine game, but I just don't think the defense of the Commanders is going to be able to stop or limit the Lions enough to allow the Commanders to win this game.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of last week where we saw both teams that have, as we thought, kind of high-profile offenses that showed the ability to score the football a lot this year, but then defenses that struggled. And last week we saw it's the playoffs. Things change. 23-20 was the final, and that one went well under the total. We got another high total here. Is this one a game that sneaks under as well? It's going to be interesting. I think this one is probably par for the course for a little bit more of a shootout here with the Lions, because if the Lions get the ball first, they start out hot. The Commanders are just going to be kind of playing catch up from there. The Lions in that stadium, in the dome, I think it's going to be on fire on Saturday night. It's going to be hard to kind of stop them if they're getting going. So the Commanders are going to have to be playing from behind, I think, at the beginning, most likely as well. But this Commanders team, they just kind of have that like destiny feel to them. I'm not saying to win it all or to pull off this upset, but like I don't think they're going to go in there and get blown out. Even if they go down 10-0, 14-0 early, I think that they're still good enough and have enough firepower to make this a game and make this somewhat competitive. They have so many fourth quarter comebacks. They have the doink that goes in last week as well to move on. They've just had a pretty special season, and it very well might end here on Saturday night. But I do think Jaden Daniels has the magic touch to him to make this at least a football game. And I'm going against my betting logic that I've said on the show all year of bet the Lions against the spread. You're going to make money over time. I'm going to take the Commanders to cover in this one. I think they make this a real game, give the Lions a real scare. But I think this is kind of just like the Lions year. Like they're not going to at least lose this one at home here. They're at least going to get to the NFC Championship game to host that game next week. We'll talk about who they're going to play soon. But I like the Lions to find a way to pull it out and win by the skin of their teeth. But I do think Jaden Daniels gives them a real scare in this one. I'm going to go Lions 31, Commanders 27, Lions minus 8.5. And I will have the over 55.5 there in what's a very entertaining game on Saturday night. All right, we go to Sunday now for the right to face the Lions, as we both have the Lions winning. We both have the Chiefs winning thus far. We have the 4-seeded Rams traveling to the second-seeded Philadelphia Eagles. Rams coming off that big win over the Vikings, had to fly from Arizona back to LA, now back all the way across the country to Philadelphia, where it is likely going to snow 1 to 3 inches, it's saying on Sunday. 3 o'clock kick on NBC. Eagles 6-point favorite here. over under 43.5. Eagles with a double-digit victory last week over the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles winning a close one, 23-20. So Rams +6, under 43.5. Like you said, going to be snowy. Think it will be super cool. I hope it does snow. It'll look super cool on TV. And even for anyone going to the game, I'm sure it'll be a blast. But I'm hoping the Eagles' offensive performance last week can be chalked up to rust. Jalen needs to play better for the Eagles to continue to win. And the Rams defense played really well last week against Minnesota. I am going to trust the Eagles' offensive line, though, to make lanes for Saquon and protect Jalen better than the Minnesota did against the Rams. The Rams defense is also 21st against the run. Saquon did run for a career high 255 yards against them earlier this season. And then the biggest thing for me, the Eagles defense has continued to play at an extremely high level, and I don't see that changing. The question marks around the Eagles are going to continue to be Jalen and what level of play can he play at. And then also Jake Elliott, can he be relied on? That's a big question for the Eagles. And I think even if we don't get true or great answers to those questions this week, I think the other aspects of the Eagles teams are good enough to lead them to a victory here.
Yeah, we saw it last time out in LA. It was the Saquon show, arguably the best game of his career. You damn better bet that the Rams are gonna game plan to stop that this time around. They're gonna make one beat the Rams with his arm. And the Rams defense has been playing awesome lately. Like, I don't think this is the same Rams team that we saw about a month and a half ago out in LA. This Rams defense, besides the game that they sat their starters against the Seahawks, their last 4 games, they're holding their opponents to 8.25 points per game. They've held their opponents under 10 points in all of those matchups. This has been a ridiculously good defense over the last month and a half, and it was a real young group. They've done it through the draft. They've built through the draft, and these players have taken some time to develop, but they've really taken off. I'm not saying that they're going to come in here and beat the Eagles, but I do think this is a dogfight and a very close game. I'm a lot more nervous about this game than I was the Packers game. I'm not sure why so many people were so nervous about the Packers. I'm much more nervous about Matt Stafford coming in here, but Matt Stafford has also struggled in the outdoors, in the rain and the snow, historically as well. I believe I saw 1-8 in those games. So historically, not a great spot, but still, you give me Matt Stafford with the ball in his hands and he needs a field goal to go tie it or win the game with 2 minutes left. You better bet I'm shitting my pants over there if I'm an Eagles fan. Two quick notes on this one. McVay, 16-12-3 against the spread as an away underdog since 2017. That's 14th in the league, so he's just about average. In the spot for Sirianni, though, Sirianni is 18-10-2 against the spread as a home favorite. They come in as a 6-point favorite here. Second best in the league there, that record, and he's 26-4 straight up as a home favorite as well, which is the best in the NFL. So more times than not, he not only wins, but he covers the spread as a home favorite. So he's very good in this spot. However, I do think the Rams are going to keep this game close enough within the number, but I do think the Eagles find a way to win. I agree with you, Kev, about the kicking. It could come down to the foot of the kickers in this one, especially if it is snowy. Who's used to kicking in that weather? Who's used to kicking in that condition? I don't think either team has really faced that, not only this season, but potentially these kickers' careers. So be very interesting to see if that plays a role in the up and down kicking of Jake Elliott, whether he's counted on or not. But I do think this game comes down to 3 points. I'm going to go Eagles 24, Rams 21, Rams +6, over 43.5 there. All right, so we both have the Eagles going to the NFC Championship to play the Lions. We both have the Chiefs beating the Texans, so the Chiefs will be hosting the AFC title game as well. Do we have the Ravens or the Bills? The 3-seeded Ravens travel to the 2-seed Buffalo Bills for a 6:30 kick on CBS, the game that everyone is looking forward to the most this weekend, I think, besides your own team. Ravens come in as a 1-point favorite here in Buffalo, over under 51.5, Kev. Will Lamar or Josh be headed to Arrowhead to play Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs next Sunday?
I am going with Lamar, 27 for the Ravens, Bills 24. Ravens cover the 1, under 51.5. I'm so excited for this game. I think it's going to be awesome. It's also the only one I struggled to pick for obvious reasons. Both teams are great. Both QBs are great. both QBs and their teams do need to win this because neither of them can continue to afford to not make a Super Bowl run. And before the playoffs started, I did pick the Ravens to win this game in my playoff bracket. So I'm sticking with it here. I don't really have anything negative to say about the Bills. I think Josh Allen can certainly win this game. James Cook in the backfield has given the Bills another weapon. I just look at the Ravens and think the only person who can stop them is themselves. Lamar and Derrick Henry are so scary. The defense has been playing at an elite level since Kyle Hamilton was moved back to safety. So I'm going with the Ravens, but I can genuinely see it going either way.
Yeah, this is a game that I don't even know if I'm going to take a side. Like, I might just take the over and just hope for an awesome game, or, even depending on, might not even bet it. Just sit back and enjoy the game, depending on, what happens with the Eagles right before it. It could just be one of those games you're so happy to sit back and enjoy it. Don't put anything on it. Because, like you said, I could see it going either way. With the Ravens being a favorite here, though, that kind of means that if this was on a neutral field, they would probably be like a 3-point favorite or so, something like that. But it's close. The Vegas thinks it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be very close. And when it comes down to those situations, the quarterbacks like Lamar, Josh, I've always been kind of against Josh and his turnovers. I think that is a big thing. And Sean McDermott, I've always kind of thought he's overrated. But home field advantage in this one as well. There's so many things to weigh in this matchup, but I'm going to ride with the home team in this one. I think Josh Allen is. You could say the same exact thing about Lamar. Like, you could say either's MVP. You could say either's kind of on a revenge tour. Either's gunning for Mahomes. Like, both can go for either way. So I'm just going to go with the team that's at home in this one. Keep it plain and simple. I'm going to go with the home team. Josh Allen, potentially the MVP of the league. You can say the same thing about Lamar. Like, there's so many similarities in this one. Like, if the quarterbacks, I'm not saying are going to be pressure free after this game. They'll have scrutiny, whoever loses this game for sure, obviously, because there'll be another early exit, another non-Super Bowl year. But I think there is a chance that either one of whoever loses this game between the Ravens and the Bills, we could see one of the head coaches removed in this from their spot. Like, you just can't keep running the same thing back. Eventually, you're going to have to try something to defeat Patrick and Andy. And if you lose this game, you're not even getting to that point. So I really do think that's a realistic chance. But with all that being said, I'm just going to go with the Bills here at home, 31-28. Bills +1, over 51.5. I think it's going to be an awesome game, back and forth. Who has the ball last? And maybe even if, like we saw between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen before, like, you can't leave any time on the clock because there could still be a miracle, up somebody's sleeve there. But knock on wood, hoping for an awesome game. But I'm going to go with the Bills to go to the AFC title game there. All right, dog of the day, lock of the week, and our touchdown score. My dog, I'm just going to go with the Bills, +1 at home. They're the only team I have out of this on the underdogs winning. So I'm just going to take them there as my dog for this week.
Yeah, I'm going my dog, Texans +7.5 versus the Chiefs. Could have picked any of the first 3 games, but this is the one I feel the most confident about.
Lock of the week, I'm going to go with over 10.5 first quarter points for Washington and Detroit. Detroit coming off the bye. Ben Johnson's been scheming up some creative plays on the script plays this week. I think they're going to go right down the field, march down and score. And as I said earlier about Jaden Daniels in Washington, they're not a team that's afraid. They're kind of playing with house money, and they can come out there against a gashed up Detroit Lions defense as well and score themselves. I think we could see a very high scoring game, and I think we're going to see some points there in the first quarter. So over 10.5 in the first quarter for Washington and Detroit for my lock of the week.
My lock of the week, I'm going Kelsey, 6+ receptions. I think he shows up in the playoffs, and he's Mahomes' safety net.
All right, and our touchdown parlay of the week. A lot of action for me in this Lions-Detroit game, Lions-Commanders game. But my touchdown score this week, I'm going to go Terry McLaurin +110 versus Lions. Lions, a team that plays a lot of man-to-man coverage. Terry McLaurin, I would take him over any of the defensive backs on this Detroit Lions team. He's going to get some one-on-one looks. He's been able to make teams pay all year. He's had by far his best year in the NFL this year with Jaden Daniels at the quarterback spot. I like him to score a touchdown this week right there at +110. I think he can go over 100 yards as well in this game.
My TD score, I'm going Lamar Jackson +170 versus the Bills. I think Lamar gets in the end zone on the ground.
All right. Well, that will do it. 2 episodes left. Conference championships next week. Super Bowl preview as well. But hopefully a very exciting weekend ahead. And then looking forward to whatever that AFC title game is, as long as it's the Chiefs versus one of the Bills and Ravens, and then hopefully Eagles versus Commanders. But if it's Eagles versus Lions as well, I'm looking forward to that. But another awesome weekend of football ahead, and hopefully some great conference championships as well. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, wash your hands, blow your nose, take care of yourself, and we'll talk next week.